Unity with every update grows increasingly important in your empire, from leaders, powerful traditions, edicts, kilo and megastructures, and much more. In this video, I'll be showing you every way you can get Unity and what you spend it on, starting with the basics and working our way up to the advanced stuff. Now, Unity on its own won't win you a game, but it's definitely going to help. Therefore, finding ways to produce Unity that doesn't hinder science and alloys and still allows you to balance your economy is the key to success in the current meta of Stellaris. And that's what this video will focus on. To actually understand how Unity is going to help you, we need to take a look at what we can actually spend it on. As with science, it's pretty obvious. It's just technologies, but Unity is a bit more nuanced. The main thing is obviously going to be traditions. You all know about this. These can change up how your empire functions, like statecraft, giving you experience when you launch an agenda, allowing you to make super leaders, or mercantile, giving you alternative options for trade, or diplomacy, allowing you to form federations. These are kind of the backbone of your empire, and every single build can be played in a unique way because traditions can form empires in different ways. These also unlock ascension paths like psionics, being robot, or being good at clone. These can give huge buffs like giving your science pops more output or allowing you to commune with the shroud. For each tradition you unlock, you get an ascension perk, which can either just be flat bonuses to important things like research speed, unity, allow you to take these ascension paths, or just do more damage to the end game. There's also more unique ascension paths like Colossus Project, allowing you to build a planet cracker, or building rings, matter decompressed Dyson spheres. You will want these eventually. So these tradition costs will actually scale as the game goes on. So we'll make the further sections where we actually see how to get Unity more important. It scales firstly with empire size. This is this number here with the arrows. This is increased by districts, systems, colonies, branch offices, if you're Megacorp, and pops. These can all be reduced by their own mechanics, but essentially the higher empire size you have, the more traditions and techs are going to cost you. Also, the more traditions you pick, the more each pick's going to cost. The empire size applies a percentage to this flat bonus, as you can see here. So yes, you're going to want a lot of Unity if you want to pick all the traditions you want and ascension pick. Secondly, leaders. Paragons made leaders a lot more important, but also removed the influence cost and made them cost Unity. It will cost Unity to actually buy a leader, and this goes up depending on their level. So this level 3 leader costs 350, whereas level 1 costs 100, and each leader will have an upkeep, which also goes up with their level. You can, if you don't focus on Unity at all, go into minus quite easily. Leaders are now crucial for scaling, as council positions such as the head of research gives you research speed per skill level, or you can get more branch office value, edict fund, research speed, ship upkeep reduction. The list goes on with all the different council positions, but leaders are very important. They can also buff up your planet, as every level of an officer will give you more basic, advanced, and strategic resource output, but you can also get really cool traits that will further buff and specialize your planet. Leaders are crucial if you want the numbers to go up. You also need them, of course, for exploration with science ships. Of course, the science ship doesn't have a leader, but if you want to do any anomalies, archaeological sites, research projects, border rifts, you need leaders. They also are hugely beneficial for fleets, as each level also gives ship fire rate, which massively increases your effectiveness at fighting your foes. What I'm saying is, you need leaders and they cost you Unity. Now, something that kind of goes overlooked is the fact that the new killer structures also cost Unity. 500, 1,000, doesn't really matter when you're 90 years in the game like I am here, but you unlock these in the early to mid game, and they're so powerful the quicker you can get them up, because they will increase your resources without using pops, which is going to be your bottleneck early game. I've done a whole video breaking down killer structures, but essentially you want to get to the tier 2s, as the tier 1s are not good value for money, and each upgrade will cost more Unity and more alloys. Megastructures will also cost you Unity, but by the time you get Megastructures, you're in the late game, and the actual cost compared to your tradition cost is going to be quite small, and the alloys are going to be the thing that you can't get to as you're spamming fleet. Something a bit more nuanced is your edict. They're quite a weird one. The activation that you see on the left side here will come out of your Unity pool. So if I just spam tracking implants, you will eventually see my Unity go down, as you can see there. Don't do that. But the upkeep can be free as long as it's within your edict fund. Anything over the cap will start costing you. So for example, edicts are now costing me 6.75, as that's how far we're over. These costs and upkeep both scale with empire size, so the bigger you get, the more these will cost. These edicts are very powerful. My favorite is capacity subsidies giving you just more energy output, but you can also get more pop growth speed, more star bases, more mining output, more farming output, industries output, research, anything that you need, you can put on. This does mean that Edict Fund increases, as you can see here, we have quite a lot, can act as a way of saving Unity, but only if you're utilizing all the Edict Fund. Another thing that isn't really used too much by me because I don't play into the late game, but can be very strong later on, is Planetary Ascension. Planetary Ascension will reduce the planet's effect on empire size by 5% per tier and increase the effects of planetary designations by 25%. If you don't know what a planetary designation is, if we have a factory world, we're getting output here, amenities, etc. If we ascend this, this goes up by 25%. This is especially strong if you have, say, a generator world. The default gives 25% output, but when we upgrade it, let's say 3 times, it's now giving 44% output and a reduction in empire size. I would not do this until you finished all your traditions, but this is somewhere to spend your Unity later on in the game, and it shows that Unity will be valuable even late into that game. Unity can also be used on planetary decisions such as these robot assembly, create penal colony, discourage planetary growth, making resort worlds or crawl worlds, etc. These aren't a huge cost, but they could add up if you're spamming them. Then we have kind of internal politics stuff. Embracing a faction will cost 5,000 Unity. Influencing and calling emergency elections will cost you some Unity. For example, if we wanted to change for some reason to someone else, it would cost us a bit of Unity. Rushing agendas also costs Unity. This is kind of exponential. If we just started the agenda, it costs a lot because we're 5 months off. It's not actually going to cost too much. So if you have gone statecraft to get XP every time you launch an agenda, you could spend Unity to convert that Unity into XP, if that makes sense. And finally, you can use it to reform your government, which you will do out pretty much every game because of Galactic Administration, giving you an extra civic slot, and you will want to take advantage of that extra civic. So that's what we can spend Unity on. As you can tell, nothing is entirely game winning, like tech rushing and alloy pumping. But what you can spend Unity on will help you achieve your goals and give you cool things to build and interact with. So how do we get Unity? The main and default way everyone goes to, like most things in Stellaris, is through buildings. However, as you will see, this won't be the best way. Let's just take a look at the buildings to see why. So the main way of increasing Unity is via specialist job. This is usually done by default by administrative officers. Because I'm a trade empire, they also give trade, but they will produce some Unity in exchange for consumer goods. This is kind of valued the same as how tech is, but tech is just a lot better. Gestalts also have the equivalent of a bureaucrat. Now, if you're spiritualist, you get priest and psionically ascended telepath. They also get an edict that will buff up their priest output. Something you probably will see a lot is the culture site, or the Gestalt equivalent. This, when built, will give Unity from jobs plus 5%. Culture worker jobs, which will also produce Unity, but not as much, but will also give different buffs depending on your ethics. They also, more importantly, give 1 Unity for each Ascension perk our empire has taken. So I've taken 4 Ascension perks. This will just produce without any jobs for Unity. It's going to be built once on each planet, but for every planet, you can just produce a free 4 Unity without having to work the jobs, as you can get rid of the culture jobs when it's built if you don't want to work Unity jobs. So if you have a free building slot, consider building this building. Entertainers, which you usually build to cure your amenities, also produce a small amount of Unity, but nothing amazing. There's also other niche jobs that you get from other civics or origins that give Unity, such as the Death Chronicler, Duelist, Necrophyte, Hyper Gladiator, Storm Dancer, or the Hunter Seeker Joan is 1 Unity if you're a Gestalt. Most rulers will also give some Unity, but it's nothing major and nothing you can really make your build around because you can't really control how many rulers there are. It's just based on your level of your capital. There's also a couple of worker jobs, such as the Soldier, if you have Citizen Service, and Mortal Initiate, but I wouldn't specifically make your Unity around the Soldiers. So to truly min-max your Unity on your planet, you can build a Unification Center, or the equivalent. Spam as many admin buildings, or the upgraded version. Build and upgrade the monuments so that you can get 15% Unity from jobs. Grab a leader that has the Unifier 2, giving you 5% more Unity from your jobs. Unfortunately, the level doesn't actually give you any Unity. It will give you some amenities, which will help, because stability will give you more resources from this job. You also build an orbital ring and get an orbital filing system for more Unity from them. You can also get a side corps if you've got Psionic Ascension to get telepaths, which will buff resources from Psionic Pops. And anything that gives specialist output, as you can see here, we're getting a lot of buffs, and even rulers can get buffed up, giving us a hefty amount of Unity. And you can also make the planet a Unification Center, like I mentioned before, and ascend it to level 10. The Unification Center will give you 10% more manager output or unity producing output, and Ascension will buff this up to 35%, totaling up 1024 unity. We will go over general unity output buffs later. Don't worry, I didn't miss the thing that you're typing in the comments right now. Well, hopefully I won't. So this is one way of increasing your unity, but you might be wondering why I'm pretty hesitant on it. That's because there are many alternate ways of producing unity, allowing for this planet to be a tech or ally world, with these resources being much harder to come across. The first alternative you probably know about is factions. Factions can only spawn on non-Gestalt empires. By default, they can only start appearing after 10 years, when alien life has been discovered, including space fauna. When factions form, you'll be centered around different ethics, prioritizing what your empire is. Factions could be a video on its own, as it can get a bit complicated, but I'll summarize how to get the most out of them. The unity gained by each faction is based off the support, which is the fraction of population from your total empire pops in this faction. And then approval, which is how much what you're doing in game aligns with what they want, as you can see in the issues. So you want them to like you as much as possible, get as much unity as you can, as low approval, as seen here, will give you no unity. These 34 pops are doing nothing. It's usually a good idea to try and fulfill as many of these issues as possible, but if you have conflicting choices, you should probably go for the bigger faction, unless you're specifically trying to change into spiritualist when you're a materialist. You can, however, manipulate the size of these factions. If you come on over to manage faction, you have 3 choices. The one you should probably use the most is promote faction, because all this will do is increase this faction's ethic attraction, so you're not going to harm relations with anyone else, lowering your unity elsewhere. This will cause this faction to slowly grow over time, and hopefully making all your pops happy and giving you more unity. You usually want to put this on your biggest faction. Press faction is usually not the best idea. It will make them deeply happy across your empire, lowering stability and happiness, and you're definitely not going to get unity from that faction anymore. If you do it on smaller factions, you can actually just eliminate the faction, as below 5 pops they'll disband. And finally, you can embrace a faction. This will change your ethics towards what this faction is. If I click embrace faction, it's gonna make us fanatic materials, and we lose a random one of the other ethics. So why have I spilled so much about this mechanic that you probably haven't really thought about when you're playing? Well, if you watched any of my meta videos, I usually go for parliamentary systems. This not only forms a faction at the start of the game rather than wait for 10 years, it also gives you faction resource output, allowing you to just generate a buttload of unity early on in the game. You can also min-max your faction output by going fanatic egalitarian for a further 50% and going democratic for more approval, which means more unity, and the ruler per skill level will get 2% more faction output. So you don't have to care about unity, and you can focus your planet on alloys and science. This is why it's so strong. Another way of getting unity that I totally didn't forget about is through the Mega Art installation site, costing you 2,500 unity and 5,000 alloys. You can build it around any body that isn't a planet. The site has a 5 energy upkeep, there's a 15,000 alloy build cost, and a little bit of unity. But once built, you get a base of 100 unity with buffs applying. You also get 5% amenities empire-wide, which is pretty nice. You can upgrade this again, giving you a base of 200 and 10% amenities, and again for a base of 300 and 15% amenities, all costing alloys, and an increasing upkeep. The final stage actually costs you 2,000 minor artifacts, but you go from a base of 300 unity to 400 and 20% amenities nationwide. You can only build one of these, but it could be a nice chunk of unity if you've got spare alloys. You can also turn a Dyson sphere into a Wonder sphere, producing unity, but you need the kaleidoscope situation, and it will produce a base of 500 unity instead of energy, I believe. I've never actually had this, but hey, it's possible. And some specimens can produce unity, like we have the chambered clay pot. It's usually not a lot, and not something you need to build your build around, but can help out a little bit. So a completely alternative approach you can take, one of my favorites, is trade. Mercantile is especially strong because if you go down adaptive economic policies, you unlock consumer benefits, a marketplace of ideas, trade policy, which if you go to your policies and then trade policy, you can now turn trade rather than just into 1 energy into half energy and 0.25 unity, allowing your trade wheels to not only produce energy but also unity, negating the need to focus on unity. Most of the things is just don't focus on unity and let something else do it. Any trade buffs will also therefore buff your unity output. As you can see in this build, we have 3k unity because I'm producing almost 7,000 trade, and they're kind of focusing on tech and trade, but it gets even crazier once you get the trade league, Federation, as you get a bunch of buffs to trade, but you also get the trade policy Trade League, which doesn't just convert to Unity, but also consumer goods. Because now 3 resources are combined into one, allowing you to just focus on the others. It's ridiculous. Now, for some more niche alternatives to Unity production. New to Galactic Archives is Galactic Craters. Every time that you find a specimen or complete an archaeological site, you will gain Unity. You do get less Unity from jobs, but you could subsidize your Unity by going full-on specimen and dig sites. This isn't too good, and I believe the output of the Unity from specimens scales based on your monthly Unity, so you still want to get that Unity number up, but if you don't want too much Unity, this could be okay. This is also open to every Empire type. Speaking of Empire types, if you play as a machine, you have 2 options limited to machines. The first, and something I really enjoy, is rogue servitors. You start the game with organic pops called biotrophies. These produce Unity, but stop you building uplink nodes, but these organic pops also buff specialist output, so you will theme your entire Unity production around growing these pops, which you will just do naturally. All you have to do is build an organic tree on every planet you get. Alternatively, you can use maintenance protocols. This will make your maintenance drones that only produce amenities also produce 1 Unity. This is pretty bad early game, as you don't want to work too many maintenance drones, because it's more efficient to work actual output jobs. But late game, when you just have lots of robots and they'll all be just working maintenance drone jobs, this is extremely powerful for a really good boost late game with machines. So if you've got a machine run going and you're in the late game right now, it might be worth reforming to take this civic. Genesis Guides, or the alternative for Gestalts, is extremely strong, and I have a video just dedicated to it, which you can go check out. Essentially, the way you get Unity is by utilizing Presapience, as when you colonize, you get flat Unity, when you uplift, you get flat Unity. It also produces Unity jobs through a feature and gives more Unity output. And you also get free pops because you're going to be uplifting them. The civic is busted. You should definitely try it out one time. And for a better guide, check out the video that I did on it. And Obsessional Directive as a machine will also give you Unity bonuses when you finish the thing. And you can take Sovereign Circuits, all the alternatives, which changes base Unity upkeep for leaders into a different resource. Again, kind of like specimens, it's not going to save you from Unity production, but might help, so you don't have to focus too much on it. And hopefully I can unify you all to click that subscribe button. That's if I've been helpful in any way. You can also get a bunch of Unity from events, via anomalies, dig sites, but there are so many different paths to these. You just have to play in what option suits you, you pick. Castles can also give you Unity, but only through holdings. You can't just sap their Unity like other resources. And unemployment can give +1 Unity if you have the Utopian Abundance, Social Welfare, or Shared Burden living standards. And finally, if you like purging, while pops are being purged, they will produce 2 Unity, and determined exterminators will receive 5 to 100 Unity per pop purged. Now, I'll go over the final buffs that didn't really fit into any of the previous categories, with some buffs just giving flat monthly Unity. I compare these in my mind to basically research speed modifiers. The first most important buff is coming over to the Artisan Troop. If you choose the option to become the patron, you'll get the Patron of the Arts modifier, giving you a flat monthly Unity bonus of 10%. The more like they like you, you can get exhibit art monuments for more amenities, or you can get a Ministry of Culture, which will give you a further 15% Unity from jobs, buffing up that planet that you saw earlier even more. When you get 50 opinion, you can also do a festival across your world, which will give you pop growth speed, so you definitely want to do that. Leaders can also get council traits that just give a flat monthly Unity. These could be worth taking and are very, very strong, as you can stack them. For example, we have 3 of them, giving us 4 of them, giving almost 55 plus more Unity. Some federations also give more Unity, such as the Galactic Unity, giving 2 Unity for each official assigned, and this gets buffed as you level up. Martial Alliance gives monthly Unity equal to 10% of Federation fleet size, which is an interesting thing, and the same is for Hegemony. The Holy Covenant will give you a flat 10% Unity bonus at level 1, and then you will just get priest jobs on Unity designations per 25 pops, and at level 5, you'll get +1 Unity for priests if you're spiritualist. You can also build an auto-creating vault once in your empire that will give you a monthly modifier of 5% Unity. You can also switch to Isolationist, which you might see me doing quite a lot of my games at the start, for a further 10% monthly Unity. There's also council agendas that can give you monthly Unity, or if you're just Gestalt conscious, it will just give you a flat amount of Unity and percentage bonus. And remember, if you're playing trade, anything that gives you more trade will give you more Unity, And anything that buffs up your factions will also give you more unity. We're getting a lot from our factions, as they really love us. You can also be traditional for more unity from jobs if you're going down that route with traits. Spiritualist can also give 10% more unity, and Fanatic Spiritualist giving more unity again. And the Edict upkeep cost reduction can also kind of pseudo buff your unity. Egalitarian buffs up specialist output, so if you're working specialist jobs for unity, that will give you more. They also buff faction output. You can actually use Environmentalist to produce unity for naturally occurring blockers. There's also traits that do this, but it's not too good. Police State can make unity from enforcers, but again, not the best. And there's some traits like Beacon of Liberty or the alternatives in Gestalts that just give a flat monthly unity. And Crusader Spirit can give you the Crusader trait, which will give you unity for killing ships. Now, I'm sure I've missed something obvious, so let me know in the comments if I have. And if you want to learn more, go check the comments, because I'm sure people can add to this video. Now, if you enjoyed this style of video, I've done exactly the same for technology, which you can watch right here. Click it.